Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. AI is just something you can't get away from these days. It's everywhere in our phones and the news. It's wild. And today we're going to tackle the big question. Is it our new best friend? Or are we headed for trouble?
Oh, that's a good question.
We've got this fascinating YouTube video that goes deep into this. And along with it, some intriguing AI-generated educational materials. So, what do you think about all that?
I mean, it's amazing how fast AI has gone from like sci-fi to something we're all using every single day.
Yeah.
But this video really brings up these concerns that I think a lot of people are starting to feel.
Right. And some pretty big names are voicing those concerns too. The video talks about this letter signed by over 1,000 tech experts, including Elon Musk, urging the world to hit pause on developing even more advanced AI. What's your take on all of that?
You know, what's interesting about the letter is that it really kind of captures this like unease. The argument is that AI is advancing so quickly that we really need to step back and think about the risks before we just keep charging ahead.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's people like Elon Musk and John Taylor, he's the co-developer of Skype, who are really pushing for this. It's not just random people. It's coming from within the tech world.
Right. Yeah. So what are they really worried about, though? I mean, are we talking like robots taking over the world? Or is it something a bit more nuanced than that?
Yeah. It's not necessarily like a Hollywood robot uprising.
Yeah.
It's more about what happens when AI reaches what they call human-level intelligence.
Okay, so what does that actually mean, though, human-level intelligence, when it comes to AI?
Right. Now, we have what's called artificial narrow intelligence, or ANI.
Right.
And it's designed for specific tasks, playing chess or recommending products. But the fear is that we're moving towards artificial general intelligence, or AGI. And that would be AI that can learn and solve problems across all sorts of tasks, just like humans can. And that brings up a whole bunch of questions about control and ethics and the future of humanity.
Yeah, that's some pretty heavy stuff. So what are these experts suggesting we do about it? Just stop all AI development?
Well, the video talks about the Future of Life Institute, and they're advocating for a temporary pause on developing these more advanced AI systems. Their argument is that the risks to humanity are just too big to ignore, and that we need to use this time to figure out some clear ethical guidelines and safety protocols.
So basically like a timeout to figure out the rules of the game before things get out of hand.
Exactly.
Makes sense. But, I mean, there's also a lot of buzz about the potential benefits of AI. It seems like every day there's a new article about how it's going to revolutionize healthcare or education or everything.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's important to look at both sides of the coin. And there's this report from Goldman Sachs that really dives into the potential economic impact.
Yeah.
And it's a really complex picture. On the one hand, they're predicting that AI could replace something like 300 million full-time jobs globally.
300 million. Wow. That's a huge number. That's like the entire population of the United States. What kind of jobs are we talking about here?
That's the real question, isn't it? And the report suggests that it'll probably be white-collar jobs that involve a lot of repetitive tasks, like data entry or reviewing legal documents or even parts of financial analysis.
So AI taking over those tasks that a lot of people find tedious or boring or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And the report doesn't just stop at the potential job losses. It also highlights that AI could create entirely new jobs that we can't even imagine yet. And it predicts it could lead to a massive increase in productivity and economic growth. So, while there's definitely cause for concern, there's also a lot of potential for positive change.
Yeah, it sounds like we're on the verge of a pretty major societal shift. And we need to start thinking now about how to navigate it all.
Exactly. And that's where someone like Bill Gates comes into the picture. The YouTube video touches on his perspective, and he's always been pretty optimistic about technology.
Yeah, I mean, he's a huge advocate for using tech to solve global problems. So what does he have to say about the potential of AI? So we were talking about Bill Gates and his views on AI. I mean, he's always been a big advocate for using technology for good, especially when it comes to those big global challenges. What's his take on AI's potential there?
Bill Gates definitely acknowledges the risks, but he's really focused on AI's potential as a tool for problem solving, particularly for those really tough issues facing developing countries. He believes that just like we direct our best minds toward the world's toughest challenges, we should do the same thing with AI. Focus the best AIs on those problems.
So while some people see a threat, others like Gates see this powerful ally in the fight against things like poverty and disease.
Exactly. And it's not just about developing the AI itself. It's also about making sure it's used responsibly. Gates really stresses the importance of collaboration between governments and industry leaders to mitigate risks and really maximize AI's positive impact. This kind of collaborative approach, he argues, is key to ensuring that AI is used ethically to create a better future.
That makes sense. It sounds like we need a global conversation about how to steer AI development in a direction that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Absolutely. And that conversation needs to include everyone, not just the tech experts and the business leaders, but also ethicists, social scientists, and everyday people from all walks of life.
You know, we've been talking a lot about the big picture implications of AI, but this YouTube video also touches on something that feels much closer to home. The impact of AI on education. It mentions ChatGPT, which is this tool that students are already using to help with their schoolwork. What do you make of that?
ChatGPT is a great example of how AI is already changing how we learn and work. It uses something called machine learning, and understand and respond to complex questions. It's almost like you're having a conversation with a knowledgeable person.
Okay, but how does that even work? How can a machine learn?
Think of it like teaching a child. You give them examples, correct their mistakes, and over time they learn to identify patterns and make connections. Machine learning is kind of similar. You feed a massive amount of data into an algorithm, and the algorithm uses that data to train itself to perform certain tasks, like understanding language or writing different kinds of creative text formats.
So in a way, we're kind of teaching these machines to think.
Not exactly think in the way that humans do.
Yeah.
But they're becoming incredibly sophisticated in their ability to process information and generate responses that mimic human language and reasoning.
That's both fascinating and a little bit unsettling, right? I mean, if AI can help students write essays, what's to stop it from eventually writing novels, screenplays, maybe even replacing human writers altogether?
Yeah, that's a question a lot of people are asking.
Yeah.
And it goes to the heart of the anxieties that this YouTube video is exploring. It's not just about AI doing specific tasks. It's about the possibility of thinking for itself, surpassing human capabilities, and potentially making decisions that could impact our lives in ways we can't even foresee.
That brings us back to those calls for caution, doesn't it? This whole idea that we need to be careful about how far and how fast we develop these AI systems. But how do we balance that with the potential benefits? Especially when it comes to solving those global problems. It feels like walking a tightrope.
It is a delicate balance, and that's why this whole conversation is so crucial. We need to be having these discussions now, before we reach a point where the technology has advanced beyond our ability to control or understand it.
You know, when we started this deep dive, the question was, is AI friend or foe? It seems like the answer is a lot more nuanced than that.
It really is. AI has the potential to be both. Depending on how we choose to develop and use it, it's like fire. It can be used to cook food or burn down a house. The outcome depends on our choices, our intentions, and our understanding of its power.
That's a great analogy. So where do we go from here? We've talked about the benefits and the risks, the need for ethical guidelines, and the potential for both good and harm. Feels like we're at a crossroads.
We are. And the path we choose will have huge consequences for the future of humanity. This isn't just about technology. It's about who we are, what we value, and what kind of world we want to create for ourselves and for future generations.
It's pretty amazing to think that we're having this conversation now, before AI has really reached its full potential.
That's the point, isn't it? We have this chance to shape the technology while it's still developing. We can set the course, define the boundaries, and make sure AI serves humanity, not the other way around.
That brings us to a really crucial question. What does a future where AI serves humanity actually look like?
That's the question we need to grapple with, and there aren't any easy answers. But I think the first step is to envision the kind of world we want to live in, a world where AI is used to enhance human capabilities, not replace them, to solve problems, not create new ones, and to empower individuals, not control them.
Okay, so let's dive into that a little deeper. What are some concrete steps we can take, both individually and collectively, to make sure AI is used for good? We've been talking a lot about artificial intelligence, and it seems like it really has the power to change our world in some pretty big ways. But how do we make sure those changes are good changes? How do we make sure that AI is actually working for us?
That's the big question, right? It's not enough to just say, wow, AI is powerful. We have to actively shape how it develops and how we use it. And I think the first step is really understanding what we're dealing with.
So let's get specific. Where do we even start?
Education is huge. We need to give people the knowledge and the skills to navigate a world that's increasingly driven by AI. And that means more than just knowing how to use AI tools. It means thinking critically about what AI means for society.
So not just teaching people how to code, but also how to think about the ethics of the code they're writing, the impact it could have.
Exactly. We need a whole generation of AI developers, policymakers, even just everyday citizens who are thoughtful and responsible, who can make smart decisions about how this technology is used.
Makes sense. But it feels like a huge task. I mean, how do you even begin to teach a whole generation about something as complex as AI, especially when it's changing so fast?
It's definitely a challenge, but I don't think it's impossible. We can start by integrating AI concepts into what kids are already learning, from elementary school all the way up to university. We can create resources that are easy to understand, public awareness campaigns that make AI less mysterious, less intimidating. And we can encourage conversations and debates about the ethics of AI, making sure that everyone's voice is heard.
So making AI education a priority for everyone, not just something for the tech people.
Exactly. AI isn't just a tech issue, it's a human issue. It's something that's going to affect all of us.
You know, one thing that keeps coming up in this deep dive is that tension between the potential good that AI can do and the potential risks. It feels like finding that right balance is going to be really crucial.
Absolutely. And that's where regulation becomes so important. We need rules that encourage innovation, but also protect us from the potential downsides of AI.
But regulations can be slow, and technology moves so fast. How do we make sure that those rules can actually keep up with AI?
That's the real challenge. We need a system that's flexible and responsive, that could adapt to the changes in AI. And we need to involve a lot of different people in the process. Tech experts, of course, but also people who study ethics and everyday citizens. So the rules actually reflect what people want and what they value.
So a more collaborative approach to regulation than what we've maybe done in the past.
Exactly. We need to move beyond that old top-down way of doing things. It has to be more iterative, more participatory, so we can keep up with AI and make sure that it's being developed in a way that benefits everyone.
That brings us back to the question we started with. Is AI friend or foe?
You know, going through all these sources with you, I really don't think it's that simple. It's not one or the other. AI can be both. And what it ends up being really depends on the choices that we make.
So it's less about the tech itself and more about how we decide to use it.
Exactly. We have to remember that AI is a tool. Like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. The future of AI isn't set in stone. It's something that we're actively creating with every decision we make.
One thing that really stands out to me is how important human choice is in all of this. It's a good reminder that we're not just along for the ride with this tech revolution. We have the power to decide what AI becomes, and to decide if it's a force for progress or a source of danger.
Couldn't have said it better myself. AI isn't something that's just happening to us. It's something we're building together.
That's a powerful thought. This deep dive has really taken us through the complex world of AI. From its potential to change everything to the ethical questions it raises. We've talked about the need for education, for rules and regulations, and for being really thoughtful about how we develop and use AI. But ultimately, I think the message is one of empowerment. The future of AI is in our hands. It's up to us to decide what kind of world we want to build with this technology.
Well said. And I really hope our listeners keep thinking about these questions. Keep asking them. Keep being part of this conversation about how we shape the future of AI. The more we know and the more involved we are, the better prepared we'll be for whatever comes next.
And that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for guiding us through this fascinating deep dive. And to you, dear listener, we hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of AI and that it's inspired you to join the conversation about what the future holds. Remember, the choices we make today will shape the world of tomorrow.